Can we continue?
Thank you very much, Chair. It's my belief and my submission that
my benevolence is infectious.
That the National Political Task Team was not established by the National Commissioner. It's my belief. And I've done the best that I could to think through, and I'm convinced that there's no National Commissioner who, after the matter of Masemola, went to establish the task team. It was the president who went there. And it was executive or political intervention. And then he gave birth to something that was not there, the IMC. When they meet, they then say there must be this further mechanism called, of course, with the then National Commission and other officers. But the directive came from a political setup via the intervention, and the human beings that are there were the executive, several ministers at the instance of the president. So they then say, do 1, 2, 3, and then it gets done and so on. It was not, for instance, 702, the minister using his powers in the office, which are there to say, let me establish this. When those who were acting to craft this, when they were doing it at the instance of political intervention. They were doing it, and there's nothing bad about that, and there's nothing wrong with that. It was necessary, and it happened. So I contest very honestly, but strongly, a view that says that we have the National Political Killings Task Team because General Stoll at that time went to think hard about it, and he came up with the idea. He only facilitated it after he was directed to do that. He was directed through a political intervention. Now, if a political intervention can establish a task team, why can't the same political intervention be allowed when it comes to disestablishing the political killings task team? It can, because you can't on one hand create something and then you are told you can't. The president appoints a minister, for instance, with due to powers given to him. When he wants to disappoint you, he can't be told by somebody you needed to have consulted the fellow and so on. He disappoints you. He just makes a statement, you are no longer a minister. And in some cases, at some point, you would just have a press briefing elsewhere without even telling the fellow. And then the fellow will see how, there's a new one. So that which was born through political intervention can be unborn, can be disestablished via. It's one thing to disagree, but that disagreement must not, people can always refer because it's an argument, but I believe that I didn't act outside the Constitution and outside legislation for the reasons that I've given. And that at the center of it, it was not the National Commissioner who established this. He was directed to do it by a political intervention emanating from the president. And this is what I believe actually happened. Let me go on. And I believe that the decision to disband the PKT, as I've said, was for lawful reasons. It was not for unlawful reasons. Not at all. Well, I know that when General Mkhonazi made a statement, among other things, the accusation was that I disbanded this because I wanted to protect criminal syndicates. I want criminal syndicates. I want them. But not that I wanted to protect them. And I will say how I have demonstrated in the past that I want them. So it was for lawful reasons, not for unlawful reasons. And it didn't come from anyone else. It came from me as Minister of Police. And I have capacity to think to that level in my role. I may be wrong, I may be right, but the decision was not for unlawful reasons. As a matter of fact, I have nothing to do with criminal syndicates myself. I've never had anything to do with them in my life, not once, and not Amber, not Amber. It has never happened, and it will never happen. It will never happen. Well, accusation is another when I'm accused, but I know I'm being investigated. But I know that at the same time, statements have been made in this comment that I'm no criminal. General Mkhonazi knows in his conscience that I'm not a criminal, that I have nothing to do with criminal syndicates. He knows. Now, let me go on. So it was not for criminal reasons. Now, I may as well add, the crimes that are being associated or lined up with the decision, those activities on those alleged criminals took place long before General Mkhonazi deployed 10 people there for whatever reason. These people were investigated and so on, and whatever happened, because the 10 members did not start from scratch on those Gauteng cases. They didn't. They were already being investigated. So it would mean police in Gauteng must then say, I intervened because they were investigating. How so? And as a matter of fact, I didn't know that on the 6th there was whatever when I took the decision on the, because even if General Masemola comes to you and say, we are investigating so and so, you don't memorize that and say, yeah, he is pursuing so and so. You don't. You just say thank you. But in 2 hours, in a day or two, you may forget that he told you that he was pursuing. That is why, even following the arrest of Mlife, for whatever reason, National Commissioner told me, actually, that it is something that has to do with Mlife, who is a member of parliament. That is the briefing that. So when, after the arrest, and I didn't see the arrested person linked with the member of parliament, I phoned National Commission to say,
Minister, did you say Molefe, who is a member of parliament?
I happen to know that there's an honorable member called Brian Mlife. And that is what, that is what National Commissioner indicated to me, as a matter of fact. But after the arrest, when I didn't see Brian from news, I saw I phoned National Commissioner and I said, you seem to have, is it And then he says, no, it's a relative of. So I now say, why do I stand accused for somebody who was not even the person who was supposed in the arrest? It went to somebody else. Why? How did I know Brian Mlifi? And that he is, it was the first time when I saw his arrest that he's there and so on. So let me leave that subject. Then we go to another.
Sorry, Minister. Honourable Chair, can I just check with the Minister whether he's now been through discussed all his reasons and the legality / constitutionality of his directive, so that we can be confined to that topic, because that's what the Minister requested. He wants a full opportunity to speak to the nation and to give his side of the stories. So just in case, because I've obviously got a number of questions relating to your reasons, and would like to ask you those questions. But
I'm on the last one.
Yeah, okay.
In my submission is 29. General Masemola stated under oath in his application proceedings between SAPS and Lieutenant General Sibia, and I quote what he said under oath: accepted that the directive, that is of the minister, fell within the oversight powers of the minister. It's not me saying that. It's a statement of the National Commissioner under oath. But I held the view as National Commissioner that his insistence on how and when the task team be deactivated of arrest into constitutional mandate as the National Commissioner of Police to manage and supervise. That is what National Commissioner is saying. So on the constitutionality, he himself is clear. He accepts, and I'm quoting, I'm not writing it myself. And here's the problem with the how part, and the how part I would contest. I never gave him directives inclusive of the how part. I merely indicated immediately, meaning that the decision is immediate that I've taken, but I understand implementation via the interim. I even said there would be another meeting, the MINESCO, at some other point, meaning I was envisaging that there would be meetings,
3 or 15.
There would be discussions.
3 or 15.
I wanted those discussions myself because of the belief I held even at that time that there is something wrong with the existence. It has nothing to do with good performance or what, but in the current situation where you have reviewed the organogram, you have done this and this, and you are thinking about the resources, thinking very hard about resources, you need to design things differently and so on. So General Masemola, there he is under oath, accepts that minister has oversight. In the paragraph of his answering affidavit, General Masemola seems to accept, therefore, my powers, not me personal, minister, to issue the directive. His reservation, it would seem, was about how and when the directive had to be implemented, which I have no problem with because the how part was never in the directive. It was just this word, immediate, which he understood differently from what I understood. And I've given reasons that I didn't use immediate in the context of a drill. I didn't. It's in the context of minister having taken a decision to indicate clearly, and then he moves on. Now, I want then to revert to the to evidence leader as per what you've just said, Chair, for now. Not that I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senior Counsel. You may proceed.
You, Minister, thank you. I trust that you took full opportunity of conveying your own side of the story and giving your reasons and so on.
Nothing. Sure, I would do honestly.